Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be going over the highly anticipated UFC London Fight Night card coming up this weekend. So to start with, let's look at Melissa Mullins versus Luana Carolina. So obviously we all know Carolina for getting absolutely spinning elbowed by Molly McCann, where she ran around the cage like a very stupidly with the belt, and yeah, we all kind of know her for just getting flatlined like that. But I do think she's a bit of a rangy striker. Melissa Mullins is coming in on a UFC debut. They've put her at the beginning of the card, the London card, but she kind of just charges in recklessly, and I do see Carolina just 29-28 classic women's MMA fight, and she's just going to get picked apart on the outside. I think Carolina might get a takedown or two. You know what I mean? Like they always win the women's always win the fights like that, but anyway, yeah, Carolina 29-28, split decision, maybe unanimous decision, but moving on quickly because there's a lot more interesting fights to talk about. Chanel Dyer versus Ravina Oliveira. So we saw Chanel Dyer have an absolute barn burner of a fight on the Contender Series. She lost, but she still got signed. So I'm just like, we see that the UFC clearly sees promise in her. I think Dyer's just got the pressure and aggression. She's a very good striker. I think she's fighting Oliveira is a bit more well rounded, and that's about it. I think this the UFC see a lot of potential in Chanel Dyer, and I think they've kind of given her a bit of a layup to kind of go through and kind of win here. I'm gonna go with Chanel Dyer is gonna. I think she'll get the finish because we've seen in her on the regional scene she does get finishes, especially compared to a lot of other women's fighters. So I really do see Dyer probably getting a finish here. I'd probably say like a round two, round three, ground and pound TKO. Nothing too crazy, but I think they're definitely setting up Dyer to get the win in the UFC. They see potential in her. Anyway, swiftly moving on from the women's fights, we've got a really interesting fight here. Shamrock versus Abdul Karim Al Salwadi. So obviously we had Shamrock. We saw Shamrock's debut in the UFC Qatar, and he kind of got given a real tough debut. I think being given Nurullo Aliyev in your debut is a bit tough. I think we've seen a few good things from Shamrock, like I've watched him on his regional scene in Octagon and things like that, and he's got some decent striking. He uses his kicks really well. His teeps up the middle. I think if he can stick to his teeps, his 1-2s, keeping those straight shots, I think he can pick apart Al Salwadi. He's just a bit. He's an all rounder, I guess, but he just doesn't really excel in any certain aspect. I think he's there to be finished, and I think I can see this fight going very similar to how Shamrock's other fights go. I think we're gonna see him come out. He's gonna throw his straight shots. He's gonna throw his teeps up the middle, and he's gonna shoot for a double leg and kind of go for like a duck under kind of thing. And he's gonna shoot, and he's just gonna climb straight up his back. I think if any of you guys are familiar with his fight against Bocconi and Octagon, I see this fight going very similar to that in the sense of standing rear naked choke. He's gonna shoot for the double, take the back, and standing rear naked choke. Whether he puts Kareem to sleep or he gets the top, I think Shamrock round one submission. He's a good rear naked choke. If you look at his record, he's a clear submission artist. Rear naked choke is his one. I think he went on like if you look at his Octagon record, he chokes everybody. And I think even earlier on in his career, I think the UFC understood the tough matchup they gave him on his debut, and I think they've given him a really winnable fight here. So I think Shamrock round one submission. Moving on next, Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. Mario Pinto is one of the non-fat blob heavyweights who can actually move really well. He's got really good striking. He's got decent grappling, and he's a pretty well-rounded guy for a heavyweight. As you can see, here he's 6'6". He's a big dude, and he moves really, really well. I think we saw in his Contender Series and his debut in the UFC against Austin Lane, I think, and he's further up on the card. But Mario Pinto's got he's actually a prospect at heavyweight, and I'm really happy that they haven't just thrown him into the deep end straight away, and they've just tried to give him a ranked guy. As you can see with Josh Hokit, who's already got Curtis Blades, and he's only a handful of fights in the UFC. So I know he was meant to fight. He did have another fight on the cards, but obviously pulled out, and now he's been given Felipe Franco. I think this isn't a clear win for Mario Pinto. I think he's gonna piece him up. He moves really well. He's gonna piece him up for a little bit, and I think he's gonna get him out of there in round one. Whether he takes him down and just ground and pounds him for the win, or he gets the KO, I can really see this round one KO. We're gonna have a poor start to the card with the two women's fights, and then I think two early finishes with the next two fights. Moving on to Mantas Kondrovic versus Antonio Tricoli. So Mantas, looking at some of his regional fights, he's very aggressive and he's very powerful. Yes, he has fought bums on the regional scene. Let's be honest. We look through his record and he hasn't been fighting anyone of good quality. But he did have a decent show against a 7-0 in the Contender Series. But you can see that they're giving him Tricoli in his debut. Tricoli's on a 3-fight losing streak. And if you're going around there and you're getting standing guillotined by Tresean Gore, I don't know. I just don't see much. I have no faith in you to get it done over someone like Mantas, who's a strong, powerful dude, and he finishes people. And Tricoli, all you do is get finished. So I think he's going to get finished early on. I think he's either going to get maybe not early on. I think he's definitely going to lose. Whether he gets finished or not, I'm not entirely sure. But I think he's definitely going to lose this fight. Whether that's bad decision or he gets maybe a late second round, third round TKO. They're my predictions. I'd say I can't see this. Can't see it being a first round finish, but definitely towards the end of the fight and possibly a decision. Moving on to Louis Sutherland versus Brando Perisic. I feel really bad for Louis Sutherland because he got given Volta Walker in his debut, and I feel like it's quite a tough debut to come in against. Obviously, the streak Walker was on, the momentum he had to be given Louis Sutherland, and yeah, he really underperformed that, and I didn't really get a chance to perform, to be honest. But I don't know whether you guys know about Perisic, a little bit of a backstory where he almost lost one of his hands to cancer as well. So he's got a nice, good story behind him. But I think if he wins, the UFC might be able to push him, having that storyline, things like that. But they both seem to push forward and get KOs. Louis Sutherland his ground game is absolute garbage. We've seen a lot of his losses have been due to submissions and things like that. I think he's got heavy hands. He's a decent prospect for the UK, but I do see these two. These are more of the lower end quality of the heavyweights, and I think they're going to go out and one of them are going to KO the other, and I think I'd have to lean towards Brando Perisic to get the win here. I don't think we're going to see an impressive heavyweight fight here, but I am going to lean towards Perisic. Moving on, a very interesting fight we have here. Nathaniel Wood versus Lucien Quito. The one thing I want to say about this, first of all, you've got Nathaniel Wood, who's a very small featherweight. He's come up from bantamweight, and he's much smaller than his opponents at featherweight, against Lucien Quito, who's a double champ in octagon, featherweight and lightweight. And yes, he is only 5'9", but he's not a small featherweight. And he's coming in against Nathaniel Wood, who is a very small featherweight. However, we have seen Nathaniel Wood, the size doesn't really get to him too much. The size discrepancy between his opponents don't really get to him too much. He's a very fast striker, but Lucien Quito is just a lot bigger than him, and he's got power, and he finishes his opponents, as we saw in his streak in octagon. I really do want to lean with Nathaniel Wood, but I'm really struggling to find that I do think he's going to do really well, but we just look at all of his previous fights and he just gets dropped really badly. I think Jose Delgado just absolute, like, how he managed it, how Nathaniel Wood got out that first round, that was incredible. But and then obviously, arguably, he did lose to Jose. I think he did lose to Jose Delgado. I think they kind of just gave him. It was nice to see, because what happened with that previous robbery earlier in his career in Abu Dhabi, when he got kicked in the nuts about 50 times. But man, I think they clearly see something in Lucien Cato, and they're giving him Pitbull in his debut. He's missed weight. Okay, fair enough. Pitbull doesn't want to fight him, and now he's given Nathaniel Wood, someone who's arguably should be in the top 15 right now, if not fighting to get in the top 15. I see this fight going similar to Nathaniel Wood's previous fights, where I think in the first round he's going to come out and he's going to get dropped badly. I think Cato's too explosive too early on, and I think he's going to drop him. However, Cato has not fought anyone on Nathaniel Wood's level, I don't think. I could, if Nathaniel Wood can survive the first round, I think we could see him win the second and the third, and they kind of go to maybe a similar fight to the Jose Delgado one, where it goes to a split decision, where arguably if Cato got a 10-8 in the first round and Nathaniel Wood won the second and the third, it could be a draw or some. I think we're gonna come out of this fight with a bit of controversy in the outcome. I see this fight going the distance. In whose favour, it's really tough, but I am leaning towards Nathaniel Wood, only slightly. I wouldn't be surprised if Cato got the win here, but I am going to go Nathaniel Wood 29-28 split decision. But I think this is where the card starts to get quite good from here, and I think it's a great fight to have on the prelims. I think we're quite lucky here, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Nathaniel Wood. Moving on to, you guys will soon come to know that Mason Jones he's gonna be a channel favorite. This man only puts on good fights. He just seems to go to war in all of his fights. We've seen his previous run in the UFC, where it started off, he had some very good fights, but I think it was clearly a timing issue. I just don't think he was ready. He came out of Cage Warriors, he got both belts, and I think the moment just got to him a little bit. I think something was clearly not right something was going wrong in his lead up to these fights, or whatever was going on. But he's just ever since he got released from the UFC, he went on a really good win streak at Cage Warriors, and now he's back. And I think, okay, yeah, they fed him. How old is Jeremy Stephens now? 50. They fed him 50-year-old Jeremy Stephens in his return to the octagon, and I think that fight went. Yeah, you go into decision with him, but I think he did beat up Jeremy Stephens really badly. And then that Balaji Yaki fight was incredible back in Paris, where he gets dropped early. I think he might just be one of those slow starters where I think remember hearing Paddy the Baddy say it, where he needs to be hit to wake up. I can kind of see something like that in Mason Jones, where in that Balaji Yaki fight, after he got dropped and he got his legs back underneath him, he absolutely tore Balaji Yaki apart. He was piecing him up on the feet. And Mason Jones, he's not the fastest striker, but you can clearly see he's got some thud behind his punches. And where other fighters start they're much faster when they're throwing their hands, but then they all seem to slow down to Mason Jones's speed, and if that makes sense. And I think as we saw like a full display of Mason Jones's arsenal, I guess, in that Balaji Yaki fight. He had that Kimura, which he almost got on him, and I think he kind of only didn't get it because how strong and athletic Balaji Yaki is. But then he hit that little Polish throw on him and just took him down and just beat the brakes off of him. I think this is Mason Jones's. I think I've seen in a few interviews coming up to this, he was like, this is his final fight to solidify himself in the UFC. Once he kind of gets that three fight win streak in the UFC, he feels comfortable. So I think he's still fighting with that chip on his shoulder. He's still fighting for his place in the UFC. However, he might have been given two more favourable matchups previously, but Axel Soler is not a favourable matchup for him. He says 5'11", but I don't think Axel Soler is 5'11". I think he's 6', 6'1". He's fought in Aries and Brave previously in his career, which are two pretty good feeder promotions to get yourself to the UFC. He's a very good kickboxer, and he's fought some decent competition in his time in Aries and Brave. Obviously, in his last fight, he fought at welterweight against Rhys McKee, beat him in the third round TKO. I think, in my opinion, if it's taking you to the third round to beat Rhys McKee, then I don't know. That's not very impressive to me. But he does float between 55 and 70, but how is he going to handle coming back down to 55 against somebody who hits as hard as Mason Jones? Is his chin going to be depleted? I don't know, but he's not an easy fight for Mason Jones here. I think obviously Axel Soler is going to want to keep this standing. I think he understands the threat of Mason Jones's grappling. I wish Mason Jones would use his grappling more, because he's a black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu. I know he's a really good striker, but his grappling credentials are clearly there. We've seen it in his run through Cage Warriors. He's a very good grappler, and I wish he would use it more. But I think here he's gonna have to. I think if he stays on the feet with Soler, he's gonna face some adversity, and I think he can't fight like he did in the first round, early in the first round against him, because I just think he's gonna get you can see the scar tissue in Mason Jones's face. He's gonna get opened up. So I think if Mason Jones comes out here and maybe he might strike for a little bit, but I think he needs to get to his grappling, and he needs to get to it early. Yes, that's easier said than done, because Soler has got very good defensive grappling, but saying all this about Soler, I still do believe Mason Jones is going to win. I think he's going to finish him. I think he's going to get him out of there. I just don't think it's going to come early and easy. I think it's going to be possibly the first round of kind of getting beaten up a little bit. He's going to come out in the second, take him down, understand that he can control him on the ground, and then come out in the third, go straight for that takedown, and I think he will finish him in the third round, whether that's by TKO, ground and pound, or he's going to submit him. I do think Mason Jones finishes him on the ground in round 3. And I think this is my fight of the night on the card, definitely, because Mason Jones is just never in a boring fight. Moving on. How the hell did Curtis the Pink Panther Campbell make it on to the main card? We'll never know. But nonetheless, he is a somewhat of an exciting prospect. He got a really quick finish against a half decent guy in the Contender Series. Not the best competition, but he got that quick early finish with that knee and dropped his opponent and kind of finished him with ground and pound. So Curtis Campbell fought on a promotion, FCC, which is not the highest quality regional scene promotion. Nothing compared to Cage Warriors. They just ship over their opponents from Brazil, and they give him these their prospects these feeder type opponents. And yeah, yes, he's got the experience. I think he's 8-0 now or something like that, but he hasn't necessarily. I do think he's going to win this fight, and I think the UFC know he's going to win this fight. They're giving him Danny Silva 2-1 in the UFC. He's a boxer. Yes, we saw him go to decision with Kevin Vallejo, so he's clear. We know he's got a chin, and he's got a very good chin to go. I mean, I guess that's aged quite well after we saw what Vallejo's did this weekend, or last weekend. But the UFC clearly know what they're doing here, and they're giving him Danny Silva. I do think Curtis Campbell's going to finish him, probably in the first round. Curtis Campbell's got good grappling. We've seen that. He's got some good kickboxing, some really strong leg kicks. We saw him get a finish via a leg kick on the regional scene. I just don't know how how far I see Campbell going. He's very young. He's 23 years old, I believe. And I think coming in the UFC that early, it's not a bad thing, but whether I just don't think he has the experience to be fighting this top caliber in the UFC. Yes, he's going to get him out of there. I think round one, he's going to finish him. I think he's going to drop him on the feet and he's going to sub him on the ground or ground and pound. But I'd like to see him fight someone a little bit better so we can see what he's really like. But I guess it is only his debut, so let him get a couple wins in the UFC. Again, he is still young, so no need to feed him straight to the top dogs now. But I'm very interested to see how he performs against some better competition. But yeah, Curtis Campbell, round one, finish. Roman Fraudlidze versus CLD. So we saw Dolidze get absolutely ragdolled by Hernandez in their last fight. Yeah, we now found out that Sean Strickland said in an interview that he was going in there with some really bad back injury. He wasn't really training much. But I still think the same thing would have happened regardless of whether he was injured or not. All Dolidze's got is he'll he might pull off a fluke submission and then he gets back into the top 10 and then he just gets absolutely mauled again. We've seen CLD, he's been on a pretty decent run now. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak and he's at home in London. Oh yes, he's from the Midlands, but he's back in the UK. He's got very crisp, creative striking. He's a little Beyblade runner spinning around the cage. He does finish people as well, and I just do not see Roman Dolidze being able to strike with him at all. I think we've seen Christian Leroy Duncan's his takedown defense is not the best. It's okay, but I think he can do enough to defend takedowns and keep it on the feet. I think first round he'll win via damage. I think he'll spend about the first three minutes of the fight piecing up Roman. He'll get taken down at the end of the fight and controlled. He'll come out in the second round and he'll finish him. I think I see a brutal spinning elbow, spinning back fist, something like that. I think he's going to do his little Beyblade tricks and he's going to spin and he's going to finish Roman Dolidze in round 2. Or he might just come out there and be conservative and take him to a decision. I also wouldn't be surprised at that if we just see CLD on the outside, picking him apart and taking him to a decision. It's going to be an interesting fight, I guess. It's a pretty good step up for CLD. I think Dolidze's ranked 11 now, maybe 12 or something like that. So it'll be a good intro to the top 15, and then maybe we can see him get a nice matchup. Maybe I'd like, if CLD can get this done, it'd be cool to see maybe a Jared Cannonier fight next. I think that would be really interesting. But yeah, overall, I think CLD is going to win this here. Moving on to a light heavyweight match. We got Iro Baranowski versus Austin Lane. So I think I mentioned it earlier. He lost to Mario Pinto, Austin Lane did. I think that was Pinto's debut in the UFC, and now we're seeing him come down to light heavyweight. So he's clearly much taller than Baranowski, but he's got all the, I guess, the size advantage. He's got the height, he's got the reach. But I think this is a perfect case of lighter man skill. I think Baranowski's definitely the much better technical fighter. Baranowski's 7-0. He's got 7 finishes, 5 KOs, 2 subs. I think looking at Lane's previous few fights, he's been finished a lot. And I think if you're being finished by Justin Tafa in the UFC, I can't trust you to beat anybody. Yes, he beat the great Rebeles de Spain, but if you are being finished by Junior Tafa in 2025 or 2024, I cannot trust you to beat Baranowski, who is a heavy hitter. He's got this Polish power, legendary Polish power. But I think round 1, KO, I think I can see with a good win here, it'll be 3-0 in the UFC if he gets this finish. 3 finishes. I think it'd be nice to see him kind of get a fight just outside the top 15. Not the top 15 just yet. There's no need to rush, but definitely see him getting the finish here because Austin Lane is nothing too good. But it'd be interesting to see him come down at light heavyweight, see whether he can kind of use that athleticism he's got, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I do believe he's getting finished. Moving on to the matchup none of us knew we would be getting. And it's interesting. I think when it first got announced, I was so surprised. I was like, what are they doing here? And now it's kind of getting a bit closer. I'm definitely intrigued. I'll say that. So Sam Patterson was in helping out Michael Venom Page for I think his first few fights in the UFC. So I think he was one of his main training partners for the Kevin Holland, Ian Gary, and the Shara Bullet fights. So these two clearly know each other, and I think we know how they handle each other. And I think one of the big things that MVP says is like, nobody can imitate me because I'm a one of one. However, no one that MVP has faced has been in a situation like Sam Patterson where they've been training with him for fights. So, and it's not just when they go to the gym and they have a couple. Sam Patterson's been he's been in 3 of his camps. So I think if anyone's going to understand MVP style, it's going to be Sam Patterson compared to anybody else. Yes, Sam Patterson is the underdog here, and I'm leaning towards Sam Patterson. He's just in the prime of his career now. He's on he debuted in the UFC at lightweight. He lost, and then he's moved up to welterweight, and he's just gone on a roll. 4 fights, 4 first round finishes. He's got the grappling. We've seen his submission skills, and he's got the power to finish people on the feet. Yes, okay, he's not flatline KOing anybody, but he's definitely got heavy hands. And look at Michael Venom Page. He's come into the UFC and he's done nothing but decision people. He's done his little retarded style on the outside, and that's all he's done. And he's just jumped in and he's got a 1-2 and he's emoted on you and he's ran back away. He ran in, pushed you over and emoted on you, and that's all he's gonna do. And I just think Sam Patterson's too game for any of that stuff. He's not gonna let all this emoting get to him. He's not gonna let all this all get to him. And I think, yes, we did see Ian Gary took him to a decision, took him down. But I think Ian Gary at the time, I don't think he was as good of a grappler as he is now. Because obviously I know he's gone over to work with Damian Maia and things like that. But I think Sam Patterson is a better grappler than Ian Gary. I don't think he's got the. It's going to be tough to get MVP down because we know his takedown defense is good, but I just think Sam Patterson is the superior grappler, and I think he's a better grappler than the people MVP's faced so far in his UFC career. He's Kevin Holland, Ian Gary, Jared Cannonier, Shara Bullet. These guys aren't going to they're not going to pose the threat of taking Page down and submitting him. Yes, we saw Ian Gary almost submit him. And I think if that's happening with Ian Gary, then I really see Sam Patterson performing well there. I think we're going to see MVP style on him for the first round and a half, and that's just classic. Yes, he might drop Sam Patterson, he might rock him badly or things like that, but we don't see him going in for the finish. And I see Sam Patterson making a comeback towards the end. He's not going to get the finish in the first round, but I see him either finishing him in the third via an anaconda or a decision, because he'll come back and he'll win the second, he'll take him down, and he'll beat him up on the ground, and he'll come out in the third and put it on him. And I think people are underestimating Sam Patterson's ability to strike as well. He's a very good striker. And I think having that experience sparring with him and doing those camps, as I said before, he's in a better case than anybody else, and I really do see him thriving. I think this is his coming out party. I think this is my underdog pick of the night. I think it's going to be tough, and I think it could even be a split decision or things like that. But just the momentum Patterson's on at the moment, I think he's gonna do it. I think he's gonna get him. I really do think he's gonna get him. I'm gonna go 29-28 Sam Patterson split decision. But I'm very excited. I think this could be a really, as long as MVP doesn't if he doesn't make it boring, we could be in for a really good fight. Moving on. Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell Jr. So, as from the UK, we all know about Luke Riley. I've luckily been able to watch him since his first or second fight when he fought someone called Yuki. I think it was something like that, some Japanese dude, and it's just wow. The levels like Luke Riley, the levels his striking is on, it's crazy. We've seen him throughout his career. He had a few. He went for that first phase in his career where he was finishing everybody. Came into a few decisions against some random guy called Callum Parker. But then we saw that Alexander Lou fight where like he's clearly got that dog in him where he's not just gonna kind of let someone break him. And I think he's clearly proven that he's not someone that you can just break. Like some of these other strikers where you feel like if you take him down, you'll end up breaking them. We see the dog in Luke Riley. I think like we saw in his debut against Bogdangrad, he got taken down a lot. Yes, okay, his takedown defense is a bit suspect. So everybody seems to single leg him pretty easily. I don't know why, but that man just cannot defend a single leg. But he gets back up. Every single time he gets back up. And I think against someone like Michael Aswell Jr., who's predominantly a striker, he does not have the wrestling or the grappling to take down Luke Riley or control him. Okay, maybe if we were seeing a more superior grappler, but Michael Aswell Jr. is not that guy. He's going to most likely try and stand with him. And if you stand with Luke Riley, I think you're going to get pieced up on the feet. I think I don't know. I don't want to predict another KO like we have seen with him. I think we've seen Aswell Jr. He went to war with Bogdangrad in the Contender Series. I don't see he's clearly got a chin to survive. I think we're going to come out, and you got to remember this is Luke Riley's probably his biggest fight of his career in terms of like the size. He's the co-main event in the UFC in his second fight. I think we're going to come out and we're going to see Riley have a slow first round where he's just going to pick him apart. He doesn't really throw many kicks. I think he's just going to jab his way on the outside, a couple leg kicks. Quite a slow round one. I think we're just going to see Michael Aswell just hold him against the cage. I think everybody against Luke Riley is going to do that. They're just going to clinch him against the cage. I think round two we're going to see something similar. Again, every time they break off the cage, I think Riley's going to win the exchanges, land the significant strikes, and then he's just going to get pinned up against the cage. And I think we're going to see that the whole fight. I think we're going to see a 30-27 Luke Riley where Aswell Jr. just pins him against the cage, and whenever it disconnects, Luke Riley's going to piece him up. I think we're going to see a bloodied up, beaten up Michael Aswell Jr. at the end of the fight, and we're going to have a Luke Riley 30-27. And I think this is probably good for him because it will slow down the momentum of his career. I think there's no need to rush him. And I think if he goes out there and he just absolutely flatlines Aswell Jr., then he's just going to... I fear that UFC will rush him. And I think they see a prospect on their hands, and I think it's best case. I think it's Luke Riley's going to go out there 30-27, and then it's just going to slow his momentum down a little bit. But it's clear the UFC really want to build him, and how can they not? He's a very entertaining fighter. But yeah, so I'm excited for this one. I'm a bit surprised that this is the co-main event. I think I would have preferred MVP Sam Patterson as the co-main event. If that would have been the co-main, I think that would have been a little bit better because I don't think everybody knew. Not many people Well, I think everybody knows Luke Riley by now, but he's not the biggest fighter. I think definitely not compared to MVP. But moving on to the main event, we got they're both undefeated. I think the stat came out that this is the biggest undefeated matchup in history. So I think it's what 36-0. These two guys combined. I think Murphy's obviously coming off that spinning elbow, but previously before that we saw him go to a decision with Josh Emmett. We had the Dan Ige fight and we had the Edson Barboza fight. So I think Murphy's got the 5 round experience over Evloev, obviously because he had those 2 main event slots in the Apex. But it's hard to see Lerone Murphy get taken down so easily by some of these guys. Okay, yeah, Josh Emmett, wrestling background and whatever, but he got absolutely dunked on his back by Emmett. And I think we saw Amir Khani take Lerone Murphy down easily and earlier in his career. And I just think if they're making it look so easy against you, then Evloev is just he's gonna take you down with ease. I do want to pick Lerone Murphy because I think a fight with him and Volk would be great, and I think Murphy would probably beat Volk because Murphy's got really good hands, he's a big featherweight, 5'9". He's a yoked dude, but Evloev in his boring style, I think he's gonna smush him. I think we're gonna see. We saw Evloev. He's got decent hands. We saw him drop Arnold Allen with a jab. We've seen him the scrambles that him and Aljamain Sterling were having. He was able to hold not hold him down for long, but he's taken down Aljamain Sterling with ease, and I just think he's gonna easily take down Murphy. I think we see the first 2 rounds, Evloev takes him down, and he does his little pity patter ground and pound that just does enough to steal the rounds and enough to stop the ref from standing them up. And then I think Murphy will come out. I'm not saying Murphy's going to get 50-45. I think he'll come out and he'll succeed in the middle rounds, maybe round 3 and 4. I could see him definitely taking a round or 2 off Evloev because he has got really good striking. And then Evloev will take round 5. I think we are definitely going to see an Evloev come out here and take a lot more risks. I think it is understandable that the track record he's got, he does not finish people at all. No finishes in the UFC. And I think he knows that. And if he tries to come, I think I heard Arnold Allen talking about it, saying if Evloev comes out and tries to force the finish, then the Murphy's the worst person to do that against, because I think Murphy will finish you in the process. But if Evloev comes out and he kind of fights how he has done previously in the UFC, I think he will win against Murphy. And I think this is a good experience, 5-round experience before he fights Volk, which I think Volk wins, if I'm being honest. But that's another video in itself. But yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Evloev. I think we're going to see a 49-46, maybe 2 scorecards, and then a 47-46, and a 48-47, my bad. But I think Movsar's going to get him. I think it's going to be a boring decision. I think he's going to win. I think the O2 crowd are going to be booing. And I think we're going to see one of those where Lerone Murphy, every time he gets back up, he's going to get taken down. Because we've seen Mov's loss, the way he scrambles, and even the way Pico, and even how easily Pico was taken out. Yes, okay, Pico's he's a wrestler with heavy hands, but Pico was winning that fight up until that spinning elbow. Yes, I know it was only the first round, but I just the fights I've seen Lerone Murphy in, I can't trust him to beat Movsar. So I am gonna go Movsar by decision. But yeah. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment. Please let me know what any other videos that you'd like to see, and I will see you guys in the next one.